Hey everyone, it's Hamish from the Young Investors Podcast. Myself and Brandon are excited to bring you your weekly rundown of the latest business and investing news from around the world. Now, a quick reminder before we get into the podcast is that nothing in this podcast should be taken on as personal financial advice. If you're ever unsure about your finances or investing, make sure you reach out to a qualified financial advisor. But with that said, let's get into another episode of the Young Investors Podcast.
All right, welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Young Investors Podcast. We're up to what episode, Hamish?
236.
Wow, that's a lot of episodes.
Yeah, we're chewing through the 200s.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking though?
It is funny.
I was thinking,
yeah,
the only thing about our podcast, because you know our YouTube videos are great if they're evergreen, people can come back and watch them. No one's ever going to listen to our old podcasts again, because it's just news of the week kind of thing. Yeah. And there's no kind of recommended or good recommended tab for podcasts. So it's not like, on YouTube, especially recently, I've kind of noticed my recommendations is a lot of really old videos that are just bangers. I don't know if that's like a specific change that YouTube's done recently, but like I swear, at least recently I've just noticed it. But yeah, like on YouTube, you can have these evergreen videos that could be from 5-6 years ago, but it just kind of lasts. But yeah, you don't you get what, like a week with a podcast and that's it. Yeah, you do. Well, especially for a podcast like ours where we're not talking about evergreen topics. I mean, some of the podcasts that my friends listen to, which are like just really interesting stories that are always relevant, they do quite well. But yeah, I guess ours is
that's true.
Very topical.
Yeah, it's surprising that Spotify hasn't worked on a better recommendations tab for music and for
podcasts. Yeah.
I mean, they obviously have some recommendation stuff. Like they have the Discover Weekly stuff, and now they have their new Shuffle recommended, where you can shuffle your own music, but it puts in like random recommended songs in there.
Okay.
But there's got to be, I don't know what it is, but there's got to be some better ways they could do recommended.
We need to get out there more. Please.
Yeah.
Nah.
But
very interesting. Hey, what are we talking about today?
There's a new social media app that everyone has to download, so you can add another one to your
wait, actually,
to your list. Yeah, Meta Platforms has come out with a brand new app.
Interesting.
Just today, to take on Mr. Elon Musk. Right. So we'll
interesting.
We'll talk about that.
What else are you talking about?
We got an RBA decision in Australia, rate hike decision.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Costco is taking a page out of Netflix's playbook. And what have you got?
Interestingly, a couple of authors are suing OpenAI around ChatGPT. So yeah, I'll talk to you about that. That's quite interesting.
Okay.
I've also got a list of the top 10 highest paid CEOs in the US in 2022. Some of it, it's quite remarkable, actually. Quite remarkable. So we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I also wanted to chuck in this story about the FTC. They're closing in on influencers around advertising campaigns. So I thought that was quite interesting. It's very relevant to kind of what we do. So I thought we'd talk about that for a little bit. But yeah.
Well, with that said, let's just get straight into it. So today's episode is brought to you by Seeking Alpha, your one-stop shop for stock analysis, market data, and news. You can access expert analysis and news for thousands of stocks, view buy, hold, and sell ratings from members, Wall Street analysts, and Seeking Alpha's own algorithm. Screen for stocks using a variety of fundamental and technical analysis metrics. You can access up to 10 years of financial data and company filings. You can also manage your portfolio by tracking your investments with price alerts so that you never miss a buying opportunity again. And at the moment, click the link in the episode description or head directly to seekingalpha.me/young investors. That's seekingalpha.me/young investors to try Seeking Alpha free for 14 days.
14-day free trial.
Man, that's hard to... It's hard to get through that. I'm so in the mindset of doing the other advertising read. It's hard to get used to a new ad
What am
read.
I saying right now? Crazy.
Yeah.
No, fair enough. But no, thank you to Seeking Alpha for sponsoring. As we spoke about last time, we're happy to have them on board as an ongoing sponsor. All right, Hamish. What would you like to talk about first?
I think we should talk about this new app that Meta Platforms has brought out, because this is probably the biggest story in the business world for this week, I would imagine, unless something crazy happens between Thursday and when we release this podcast. But I think, we're all super excited to see Zuckerberg and Musk fight in the Colosseum in Rome. But until that happens, we'll have to settle for the economic warfare.
Is that actually going to happen? Is that...
So... Yeah, so I mean, who knows if this is going to happen? But both Musk and Zuckerberg have agreed to fight, and then the kind of side story to that is the Colosseum. Rome actually said they offered up the Colosseum as a place to do it, which would just be, if that was a pay-per-view event like the UFC, that would be the biggest pay-per-view event of the century, of maybe the millennium.
Yeah,
I don't think that would ever be like topped. Like, that would just be insane.
Can you imagine?
Imagine that.
Oh my god. Imagine how much money they would make doing that.
Oh
my goodness, Jesus.
That would be quite something. And the news that came out this week is certainly adding to the fuel that hopefully that fight happens, because Zuckerberg has, through of course Meta platforms, just launched a Twitter competitor called Threads. So they kind of, it was kind of leaked a little bit earlier during the week, and it was actually announced and launched this morning for us. So a couple of days ago for you guys listening. But the app was initially accidentally added to the App Store just a couple of days ago. And through that, everyone kind of got access to a bunch of screenshots from like within the app's listing. And you could basically see it was just pretty much a carbon copy of Twitter.
Oh, really?
There
you go.
Pretty much exactly Twitter. And it's kind of interesting timing because it also comes at the same time as there's been Elon's kind of had some trouble with Twitter. And I'll kind of talk about that in a second. But so the app is called Threads. And you'll be able to kind of log in with your Instagram account. They said your followers won't carry over to the new app, but you can like essentially just follow everyone on your Instagram account.
Okay.
So when you create an account, it gives you the option, so you can kind of automate it if you want. But it is essentially its own standalone app. And then earlier this week, Zuckerberg actually shared a screenshot of the app, and the website kind of went live with a countdown timer. And that timer ended about 2 hours ago. Ooh. And I'm going to be honest, the last 2 hours I've just been spamming stuff on that platform.
Right. So you've downloaded it?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's it's Twitter.
Okay.
It's Twitter.
Right, there you go.
It's Twitter. It's called Threads. There's reposts instead of retweets.
It's the same.
It's Twitter.
What can I say?
Yeah.
Just made Twitter again, haven't they?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This I think this will I reckon it'll flop. What do you think?
You reckon?
I reckon it'll flop.
I don't know.
Well, it depends. Like, obviously Facebook, like the individual apps, Facebook has a network effect. Instagram has built a network effect. But if it's literally just Twitter, I feel like the people that kind of like that style are just using Twitter, So I don't know, unless they have some way of integrating Threads into Facebook and into Instagram or Messenger or WhatsApp, then I don't know why people would want to go and sign up, I guess. I don't know where the moat is for that specific app.
Yeah, it's interesting because, obviously Meta has kind of this long history of stealing social technology, and they've been fairly successful at it. They integrated stories into Instagram, and that took a huge amount of market share away from Snapchat. Yep. They've done less well with Instagram Reels compared to TikTok, but I think that's probably because they've had a more difficult time with the algorithm and how good the algorithm is on TikTok, so they haven't been able to kind of serve it in as good of a way. But Threads, because it is just, I don't think Twitter has, I don't know what Twitter has that's kind of makes it special compared to Threads, except that it's there first. I don't think the feed algorithm is particularly good. Like it's not anything that's like outstanding. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Certainly, it comes at a tough time for Twitter because just a couple of days ago, Musk tweeted out that they were actually limiting the number of tweets that people could read per day on Twitter, which is a mind-blowing thing for Twitter to do.
Why? What?
Very, very strange. Yeah, and I mean, there's a reason why he's doing it, but essentially the restrictions that he put in place were, first of all, you couldn't read tweets without being logged in, which is something you've been able to do for a very long time.
Okay.
Unverified accounts are now limited to 600, reading 600 tweets per day, which is not that many. Verified accounts is 6,000 per day, which is a lot. And then new verified accounts is 300 per day. So if you're just kind of spamming new accounts, it's those accounts are extremely limited.
Right. Is this to try and get spam bots down, or?
So he essentially said that the new restrictions are an attempt to prevent unauthorized scraping of potential valuable data from the social media platform.
Oh, okay.
So he said, and the quote was, "We are getting data pillaged so much that it was degrading the service for normal users." And so essentially a lot of what happens is with these big social platforms that have a lot of public data is other companies will kind of scrape data and use that to kind of build their own algorithms. So one of the things that he's been pushing back against has been ChatGPT using Twitter data, public Twitter data, to kind of build and develop their algorithm.
Yep.
But I think, this is the public stance from Musk. I think it's fairly reasonable to assume that it's also just a push towards increasing the verified subscriptions. Yeah. I think, I think it's been pretty obvious that Musk has had a tough time getting advertisers on Twitter since he's kind of taken control of the platform. So he's been pushing his subscription services revenue, essentially to try and generate revenue that way. So I think that probably plays into it, but it's a very strange position to take as a social platform to limit people's engagement. I mean, if you assume 10 seconds per tweet that you read, which I think is a fairly generous way to look at it, an unverified account would run out of tweets per day in under 2 hours.
Right.
So okay, sure. If you're spending more than 2 hours on Twitter, maybe you've got other issues. But that's there would be people who will be running into these limits. It's not like it's in a very far away limit that no one will reach.
Yeah.
There's definitely people who go on Twitter for more than 2 hours a day.
And I think you're being very generous. 10 seconds per tweet. I reckon I would probably maybe spend 3 seconds on a tweet. Max,
if that.
Normally,
yeah.
That's
so.
It is. This is a very interesting example because as you raised, this is probably the first example of a social media app that doesn't want people to consume as much of their app as possible.
Yeah, it's strange. I certainly lie on the side of disagreeing with a lot of the moves that Musk has made. I mean, we've spoken about how, even just the basis of, we spoke about this on previous podcasts, but the idea of charging for verification and not actually ID verifying people is kind of insane in my view, because it kind of completely...
Not verification at all.
It's not you're not verifying anything. Whereas actually Meta Platforms just a few months later came out with their own paid verification where they actually do ID verify. So it is, I've been kind of critical of a few of Musk's moves. So potentially, this is the time to bring out a competitor, I think. They've definitely timed it well, given the criticism of Twitter at the moment. But
crazy.
Yeah.
I guess it does verify your credit card.
Interesting. Great. That's actually kind of funny because there's been obviously a lot of pushback immediately on Threads, and one of the biggest pushbacks is of course on the fact that Meta Platforms is notorious for collecting an enormous amount of data from its users, and there was a screenshot of which types of data they'll be collecting from the new app that was released, and it's all of these things are kind of standard for social media platforms, but it is funny just to see this on one list.
Yeah.
So these are all the things that they collect your data from: health and fitness, financial info, contact info, user content, internet browser history, user data, purchases, location, contacts, search history, sensitive information, and there's a couple more as well.
We are going to take everything.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, look, the truth is most of those are also things that Twitter
takes as well.
Harvest data for as well. So but it is just funny to kind of read all of those.
It's line by line
list.
financial information.
It's like, yeah, wow. They really just take everything.
Your home security system, your PIN number.
Wait, what? All the microphones in your house? Hang on.
So funny. Yeah, it is kind of crazy when you lay it out like that. I don't know. Wasn't there... back in the day, everyone was there was some author, was it maybe Douglas Adams? I'm not sure, was nervous that we're going to be like, people going to watch us and they're going to make us carry around, I don't know, devices, or we're going to be on cameras all the time. And now we willingly, take a supercomputer with a camera and a microphone and put it in our pocket and carry it around with us all day, every day.
Yeah, it is kind of fun. And we just do it voluntarily.
We do it voluntarily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is kind of funny. It's something you really don't think about it, but it's like, yeah, hang on a second. I've always got a camera and a microphone in my pocket. Like that's a crazy concept. And even if you didn't have it in your pocket, probably somewhere in your house, probably in most rooms, there's a computer with a camera that's probably open and with a microphone that, it's not on obviously, but it's a funny world. Like you've just invited all of these devices into your house.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember. I'm trying to just quickly find who said that stuff, but I can't quite remember. Anyway, sorry guys.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, and I mean, on that point as well, the app's launching in the US and the UK, and it's launched in Australia as well and other parts of the world. But one place it won't be launching is the EU.
Oh, so you're going to say China.
EU and... well, it's not launching in China. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, it's not launching in China, but surprisingly, I think it's not launching in the EU, and that's really because Meta has been having a constant battle with the EU over privacy and data collection. I mean, if you look at most of the fines and lawsuits that Meta has had over the past 5 or 10 years, almost all of them go back to some EU regulatory body. Even just as early as this year, just a couple of months ago, the Irish Data Protection Commission fined Meta 1.2 billion euros for sending EU data back to the US, which is now banned in the EU. So they kind of set up this infrastructure to say all of EU citizen data has to stay in Europe, and it can't be kind of funneled and used in Meta's entire advertising algorithm. And there's a bunch of other lawsuits going on with the same commission as well at the same time. So, they won't be launching in EU, which is really interesting. I think it's 100 million people or users they had in the EU, so they won't be launching to those users.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But fair enough.
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense if you're just constantly being chased.
Yeah, I think they just don't want to deal with any more fines at this point.
What's the point?
It's just not worth it for them.
Fair enough. Oh, we'll see if it ends up there eventually, but yeah. Oh, there you go. Threads, eh?
Yeah. It's
Meta
going to be
threads.
A thing.
It's going to be a thing. Oh, okay. Let's. Do you reckon? Okay, in 12 months from now, do you think this still exists?
Yeah, definitely still exists.
In 5 years from now, do you think it still exists?
Yeah, I think it's going to beat Twitter.
Okay.
I think Twitter's done.
Really?
I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I think I just think Twitter is, I don't know, like it's tough because it's obviously burning. I would imagine it's probably a money sink for Musk at this point. And I mean, it was a money sink before there was really any major competition. So I don't know. I don't know how much. I guess it depends if Musk really puts up a fight with it and is able to get it profitable. Then it stays around. But otherwise, so I guess it's just a matter of time before Musk gives up on it. But maybe that's kind of cynical. I don't know. I wouldn't ever want to go against Meta in this kind of arena.
Fair enough.
There's just too many times where they've been able to basically just steal a core idea and just do it in their massive network of users.
I would be more bullish if this was a feature on Facebook or on Instagram. I'm a bit bearish that it's its own thing, especially when Twitter already exists. And I know that not many people realistically use Twitter.
No, that's
comparatively to the other ones, but it's already got its kind of place in society. It gets quoted in the news, all the politicians, like everybody kind of, and I'm just not sure. Well, I think that if Meta can funnel people from Facebook and Instagram and Messenger and WhatsApp towards this Threads thing, then sure, it'll be fine. But to grow it organically from scratch when Twitter already exists and is respected, I don't know if respect is the right word, but it's used by... yeah, it depends who you ask. But yeah, it's used throughout the world and in media and journalism and politicians and public figures and all that. I don't know. I think Twitter wins, honestly, in this space. Like Meta, I don't think Twitter's ever going to rival Meta, the business, but
no,
I think that would be basically impossible. But
yeah,
for this specific thing, I don't know. Interesting. We have a differing opinion. That actually is quite rare for us. We usually think pretty similarly on most topics.
Yeah, it's I really don't know how it will do. I don't know. I'd love to see if there was any cancellations on Twitter verified over the past day.
Yeah.
Or at least, I mean,
probably
it's only been a couple of hours, but I'd be curious to see if that's actually has a meaningful impact. But I mean, I kind of hope Twitter survives, because not only did Meta, like, I already lost my Instagram account. They just deleted my account. So I lost all the work I did on that account.
So annoying.
And now I've built a reasonable Twitter following. So that's all going to go if Twitter goes.
Yeah.
So how many times do I have to start from scratch on other platforms?
Yeah. So annoying. Yeah. Oh, well. All right, Hamish, let's move on. What should we talk about next?
I don't know. What have you got? What have you got for us?
Talk about something. We'll talk about this FTC closing in on influencers. This is quite interesting. Federal Trade Commission has issued a long-anticipated update to its guidelines for endorsements, which advise businesses about how to make sure consumers understand when celebrities, influencers, or even regular consumers are compensated to promote or review their products. Some marketers and influencers will now need to go beyond using hashtags such as #ad in social media, for example, to ensure that all users will see that a post is sponsored without having to click more or read the full text of the post. The FTC said last week as it released the update. The FTC has long accepted many marketers' standard disclosure methods as sufficient. The new guidelines make clear that this is no longer the case by going into greater detail about what they must do to avoid potential penalties, said Jeffrey Greenbaum, a partner in the advertising, marketing and public relations practice of the law firm Frankfurt, Koenig, Klein and Seltz. Alison Fitzpatrick, a partner at law firm Davis plus Gilbert, who specializes in social media influencer marketing, says, "I think the whole influencer endorser landscape or environment and every party involved is on notice now." The guidelines also address several issues that have arisen since the last update in 2009, such as the introduction of artificial intelligence-powered virtual personalities. Interesting.
2009 is the last time they updated this. I think it's time for an update. Has anything changed since then? Are there any large social media platforms that didn't exist in 2009 that people use today? All of them?
The rise of the influencer. No, nothing's changed since 2009. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Yeah,
that's
crazy. It looks like they've pretty much ironed out the rules where you basically have to very obviously show that when you're being paid to do something. There's no like hiding it in the description. Like they're saying basically it has to be visible immediately. Yeah. So people like on TikTok where you don't see a description unless you click, or click more, it has to be displayed within the content itself kind of thing as you're saying it.
Yeah, and I've kind of noticed most social platforms over the past year have implemented some kind of checkbox that you can now tick, whether you're on Instagram or YouTube or whatever it is. You can just check a box and they have their own kind of display rather than you having to put it in the description. So it makes sense that should have always been there. It's just something I guess that has to take place over time.
Yep. It says here the FTC has been relatively quiet on influencer marketing in recent years, but the new guidelines likely foreshadow more high-profile cases like those filed against retailer Lord & Taylor and tea brand Teamy Experts said. Lord and Taylor settled with the FTC in 2016 after allegedly failing to disclose that it had paid for a magazine article and a series of posts by fashion influencers that were designed to promote its new clothing line. The FTC sued Temu in 2020 over allegations it made false claims regarding its product's health benefits and failed to prominently disclose its relationships with influencers and celebrities such as rapper Cardi B. The company later agreed to settle, and the FTC awarded $930,000 to Temu customers.
Imagine being the company that just gets picked out of the millions of people who do sponsored posts.
Yeah.
You're the one that's getting sued for $1 million. Like obviously, like it's kind of odd that this is how it works, that like in order to establish the law in many ways, they just sue someone and then say you're violating the law in this way, and then the case establishes it for everybody else. Yeah. It's kind of odd that it happens that way, because no one's disclosing anything, and then all of a sudden they just pick someone out and go, hey, you're getting sued, and then everyone else changes and doesn't get fined or anything. It's a funny system.
That's so true. Yeah. Says in January, the FTC raised the maximum civil penalty for each violation of the provisions it enforces to $50,000 from $46,500. Related judgments would apply to every offending post. But reputational risk is likely high for brands, since penalties imposed on well-known companies will attract media coverage and increase scrutiny of future campaigns, Fitzpatrick said. Influencers have long had a responsibility in the FTC's eyes to disclose any relationships with the brands they mention. The updated guidelines offer additional detail on a number of specific points. For example, the agency stated that tagging a brand in a post or using hashtags like #sponsored or #ad doesn't qualify as proper disclosure if it isn't clearly visible to all users. That means creators on TikTok can't include such disclosures only in the text of a post, but must feature them within the video itself, a demand unlikely to appeal to influencers who value creative control. Yeah, quote, for an online disclosure to be effective, it needs to be unavoidable under the new guidelines. This is a big change in terms of what advertisers are required to do, Greenbaum said. Yeah, interesting. So it just has to be completely obvious. It makes sense, because that's what we don't like to see. I hate it when it's like, sure, the disclosure's there, but it's hard to find, or it's murky, or it's blended in with, a million other hashtags, and the middle one is ad,
Yeah, and social media just blurs the line of what's content from your favorite creator or whatever, and what's an ad. I mean, even when there was there's always been celebrity endorsements for things, but it's always been in a setting where you knew it was an ad. Like if there would be a television ad with a celebrity in it, it might be your favorite it might be LeBron James, but it's in an ad. So it's during the break of a television show you're watching, so it's an ad. Whereas social media has kind of blurred that, where it's like some posts just really sound like someone is just saying, hey, I use this product. Like, it's pretty cool, but secretly they're getting paid, $50,000 to say that. So, this is definitely something that's needed on social media, for sure. Yeah.
Marketers' top question when reviewing their influencer practices concerns their old assumption that they don't have to include ad disclosures on posts featuring traditional celebrity endorsers, said Ryan Stern, chief executive of influencer marketing firm Collectively. The idea was that consumers are more likely to assume that a celebrity who mentions a product has a commercial incentive to do it, but the FTC's update says clear disclosures are required when even a small percentage of the audience is unlikely to fully understand the nature of an endorser agreement.
Yeah, okay,
there you go.
Interesting. Yeah,
that's exactly what you're talking about.
That makes sense. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other circumstances where there's kind of traditional endorsements where maybe you don't know that it's an endorsement, but I can't really think of any.
Nah.
Yeah.
That's got to be the main one. A traditional celebrity. Drink Sprite,
Yeah, kind of exactly. And it's so obvious that it's an
not
ad.
Sponsored.
Yeah. Those ads are always so funny as well. It's just so scripted, and it's just especially from our perspective as creators, and we see how people are actually quite good at organically talking about products now. Like people have gotten really good at just acting like they just love a product when they're getting paid to do that. People have gotten good at that. Whereas like in a television ad, it's like I drink Sprite. Like
Sprite helps me shoot more hoops at basketball practice.
Yeah.
Thanks, LeBron.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. What else is there in here? No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It is very strange. Updated guidelines also focus heavily on product reviews, now requiring companies to either clearly disclose when they provide some sort of incentive for users to write positive reviews on platforms such as Amazon, or to stop including those reviews in their total ratings altogether. The FTC has separately proposed a new rule that would ban practices such as suppressing negative reviews or posting reviews attributed to people who don't exist or have no experience with the products in question. Some experts suggested that the murky world of review sites could be a bigger priority for the FTC than influencer marketing. So there you go.
I'd believe that. Reviews are... Yeah, reviews is weird because, you do a lot of websites, especially if they sell their products through their own website direct to consumer. They'll have reviews on their website, but it's just the 4 or 5 star reviews. Like they're just purposefully hiding all of the reviews. So it does kind of, reviews are kind of redundant unless it's a website that you trust to have some kind of reputability, like Amazon, for example. Wait, did you just mention Amazon? I don't know. I feel like Amazon's ratings have been generally pretty good, right?
I feel like when I like the review sites where you've got a bar chart of how many are 5-star, 4, 3, 2, and 1. But you can also click on each one. Yeah. So if there's 500 1-star reviews, you can click on the 1-star and it'll take you to that page and it will show you all those 1-star reviews and you can read them. Yeah. You can see, and normally you'll find a common thread. Like there was a particular fault in a manufactured product. It's just like, oh, okay, recurring. I probably won't buy it. It's the ones where you're right, where it's just like, our product's rated 4.8 stars out of 5. And you're like, okay, but can I see any of the reviews, you know? And it's like very murky, or they just show you a select few. This product changed my life. It's fantastic. Yeah. I lost 50 kilos in 2 weeks.
You know, that's actually, speaking of ads, that's actually one of my favorite ads to laugh at, is like where they set up as if it's a customer like reviewing. It's like an interview of the customer. That's the ad. It's like like it's just like the most ridiculous ad to me. It's just like, okay, like like this person's not being paid to say that.
Yeah. And even if it's down the bottom of the screen, it's like asterisk paid actor.
Yeah, something. Exactly. Like those ads are so good.
It's just ridiculous. Yeah. It is just ridiculous. Anyway, that's all I had to say. The FTC is close and tightening things up. All right. There you go. I'll chuck it back to you. What do you want to talk about next?
I got just a quick one. We'll just a quick update on the RBA's rate decision that came out this week. For those in Australia, they decided to hold interest rates steady at 4.1%. So some long awaited relief for mortgage holders. Rates will not be going up this month, which is obviously a positive move for mortgage holders. Philip Lowe, the governor of the RBA, said essentially that they want to pause for a moment and wait for more economic data to come in.
Okay.
So in about a month, we'll get a little bit less than a month, we'll get the CPI data for the second quarter of this year. And the quarterly CPI data, so the inflation data, actually has more details in it than the monthly one that's now kind of filling in between the quarterly releases. So the RBA wants to kind of look at that when it comes out and then kind of make decisions going forward with that. The other kind of big reason is to potentially pause and just see how things play out over the next couple of months, or the next month at least, is because of this mortgage cliff, which I think we spoke about this maybe a couple of months ago. Yeah. For those who didn't see that, essentially this year there's 880,000 fixed rate mortgages rolling into variable rates. So these are all fixed mortgages that were fixed in 2020 and 2021, and they have either 2-year or 3-year fixed periods. And now they're in 2023, they're rolling into the variable rates. And what that means is interest on those loans will be about tripling when they roll over, which means the average mortgage payment will rise 65% overnight, which is steep. And that represents the number of mortgages for context for people outside of Australia, there's only about 10 million mortgages in Australia. So it represents a very large chunk of overall mortgages in Australia.
Wow.
That's
actually crazy.
It's a lot. It's
yeah.
It's massive. And essentially, we're in July, so we're quite a way through 2023. About 36% of this rollover has happened, although the bulk of the rollover is happening in the next 2 months. So that is potentially within why the RBA is wanting to kind of wait. So there's still 26% of the rollover for the remainder of the year, and then 38% of the rollover will happen next year. So there's still, the bulk is still in front of mortgage holders. And we don't really know what's going to happen. Really, we don't know if this is going to cause a large amount of defaults. One of the potentially concerning aspects of this, there's kind of a positive and a negative. The negative is that when these mortgages were given out to people, one of the assessments is a serviceability assessment. And what the banks do is they assume that rates go up 3% and see if people would still be able to continue to pay their mortgages given their expenses and that sort of thing. Since then, there's been 4% interest rate increases. So essentially, given what we know now, a lot of people who got mortgages in 2020 and 2021 wouldn't have qualified if banks had a crystal ball to know that rates would have gone up 4%, not the 3% that they kind of check for. So that's kind of one concern. I think the positive side of this, as to potentially why this may actually not really be a widespread issue, is because the property market is extremely hot at the moment. There's still a massive shortage of housing. So even if people did need to sell, as unfortunate as that would be, if you did need to sell, people probably still have more equity today than even when they bought back in 2020 or 2021. So that's the positive side. It's not as if you have this looming problem and a property market that is lower, meaning people will be selling, potentially may not be able to sell, or selling with negative equity or anything like that. That's not an issue, at least right now. So, but that's it's certainly, I'm sure, weighing on the RBA and their decision to kind of pause for a little bit, just see what happens over the next 30 days, and then they can decide again. Yeah,
very interesting. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
We will.
We'll have to wait and see. All right, very good. I want to talk about these authors. Is that all you had, sorry, on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Wanted to talk about a couple of authors are suing OpenAI, alleging their books were used to train ChatGPT without their consent. Very interesting. It was always going to happen, wasn't it? Something like this was going to happen. Yeah. So 2 authors filed a lawsuit against OpenAI last week, alleging that their copyrighted books were used to train the company's artificial intelligence chatbot ChatGPT without their consent. Paul Tremblay, author of The Cabin at the End of the World, and Mona Awad, author of Bunny and 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl. That's an interesting title.
I haven't read that one.
Have you?
No, I said I haven't.
Oh, I thought you said you had. Said ChatGPT generates very accurate summaries of their works, according to the complaint. They allege the summaries are only possible if ChatGPT was trained on their books, which could be a violation of copyright law. ChatGPT automatically generates text based on written prompts in a way that's much more advanced and creative than the chatbots of Silicon Valley's past. The technology was developed by San Francisco-based OpenAI, a research company led by Sam Altman and backed by Microsoft. The chatbot is trained on an enormous amount of text data. OpenAI doesn't reveal what precise data was used for training ChatGPT, but the company said it generally crawled the web, including the use of archived books and Wikipedia. The lawsuit, which was filed with the San Francisco Federal Court, alleges that much of the material in OpenAI's training data is based on copyrighted materials, including books by Tremblay and Awad. But proving exactly how and where ChatGPT gleaned this information, as well as whether the authors have suffered financial damages, could be a challenge. The complaint references exhibits of the summaries that ChatGPT generated, and it notes that the chatbot gets some things wrong. Awad and Tremblay said that the rest of the summaries are accurate, however, which means ChatGPT retains knowledge of particular works in the training data set. Yeah, interesting. no point did ChatGPT reproduce any of the copyrighted management information plaintiffs included in their published works, the complaint said.
That's actually
interesting.
That is interesting because I guess one aspect that I hadn't really thought about is they're probably just scraping a bunch of data. As you said, they're scraping a bunch of data from the web. And how would they know if they're scraping copyrighted data? Like, obviously, I think it's pretty unlikely that ChatGPT specifically, maybe they did, but specifically sought to scrape actual copyrighted text. But maybe they just accidentally scraped a bunch of copyrighted text from other parts of the web. Like, how would they even know? How could they possibly know?
I don't know.
Because I don't know. they couldn't. They couldn't know. So it's kind of strange. I don't know. It seems like a weird lawsuit. Doesn't seem like it's going to be very successful. But
yeah. I was talking to Claude before, and Claude said that he's read one of the books by Mona. And he was saying that Mona definitely sounds like the type of person that would sue over something like this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So there you go. But yeah, I mean, I don't know these authors, but good way to get in the news, I guess.
Yeah. Good way to make a couple million once they settle this, to make it go away.
Yep.
Good on them.
Make it go away. You never know. Maybe. I don't know if they got a point. That's the thing. I just don't know if they do have a point. Probably. I mean, sure. Like what you say, how would they know that they're not scraping copyrighted material?
We should check that. It. We should check if they've scraped any of our podcast scripts. Maybe.
Ooh, hello.
That could be.
Tell me what happened in the most recent episode of the Young Investors podcast.
It's
That's
just
copyrighted material.
Just word for word.
Sends a transcript.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, it does open up a can of worms, about where the rights lie, even because especially with it's going to be interesting, I think, when I guess we're already seeing it a little bit. AI starts producing, realistic content, using people's likenesses or voices and that kind of thing. Like we've seen it in. I remember watching Rogue One, one of the Star Wars standalone movies, and one of the characters, Grand Moff Tarkin, that's played by what's his name? Grand Moff Tarkin, played by Peter Cushing. That's right, who's since passed away. And they digitally recreated him for this new movie, and it was quite convincing. It looks a lot like him.
Yeah, they did that in The Mandalorian as well with Skywalker, right?
Yeah, with Mark Hamill.
Yeah,
yep,
so
with Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, that is interesting. I actually never thought of it from the angle of how do they have the rights to do that?
Well, that's the thing. I'm sure they would have worked. They would have worked with the Cushing family for Rogue One, and they would have agreed to allow them to use Peter Cushing's likeness for the movie. And I'm sure. They obviously work with Mark Hamill. I mean, Mark Hamill actually acted. It was really interesting in The Mandalorian. They had a young body double that looked more like young Luke Skywalker doing the acting, and then they also got Mark Hamill to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, right.
And so they used Mark Hamill and this other guy and deepfake to actually create it.
Interesting.
But interestingly, the voice which I think was just Mark Hamill, is completely synthesized. It's 100% fake.
Really?
Because Mark Hamill doesn't sound like Mark Hamill of 30 years ago.
True. Yeah.
He sounds completely different now.
Yeah.
He's an old man now.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, that is going to be weird because, I mean, especially kind of movies where it's kind of a real story on someone's life. Like they make a LeBron movie or something in the future. They could just, instead of having an actor that just looks quite similar, they can just put LeBron's face on the actor.
Just use an AI recreation likeness of LeBron. Crazy. No. It's all very murky. It'll be so interesting to see in 10 years, because it's infancy now, but in 10 years, in 20 years, what's the industry standard? Like what's allowed, what's not allowed?
How do they police it?
Anyway.
Yeah. It's going to be
how do they police
very
it?
interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, that turned into quite the story. Do you have anything else for today, Hamish?
Yeah, this is a bit of a short story I kind of just saw just pop up, but Costco is taking a bit of a page out of Netflix playbook.
They're making video content now.
They are. They're starting to make movies. They're making really low budget movies. No, they're not. Can you imagine? They
imagine that the lowest.
They're just
budget
the cheapest movies ever.
I can't see that being a success.
No, somehow I feel like that doesn't quite work.
They just film them in their warehouses.
Yeah, exactly. They're just rubbish. Oh dear. No, they're not doing that. They're cracking down on account sharing, which is takes a little bit of a different form for Costco, but they're also a business that has they kind of have a membership model. So I think everyone's kind of aware of what Costco is, but for those who are not, the bulk of their earnings come from membership fees. Whereas essentially when it comes to the sale of goods, they're really just trying to cover their expenses. So they sell all of their products at a fixed, about a 13% gross margin. So they take a little bit of profit after the cost of the goods, and that 13% essentially just covers their operating expenses, so the leases and for the warehouses and the employees and marketing and that sort of thing. And that's very different to say Walmart, which is kind of a traditional retailer, general merchandiser, which has a gross margin of 30%. So they take a much smaller gross margin, and then in order to make money, they are a business. They have their kind of membership fee, which they charge. I think it's like what is it, $60 for annual memberships, or $120 for their higher tier, and that's basically how they make all of their profit. They currently have 125 million cardholders, 69 million households, and they make $6 billion in profit off that. They have membership. They have members who are kind of allowed to go into their warehouses and shop there. And up until now, you've always had to show your membership card at the register, but the membership card doesn't have any ID on it. So it just says your name. So people would just share them. It's pretty common. People would just share them because it's not as if you have to be in Costco all the time. You might go once a month or once every 2 weeks or even less than that. And so it's just a piece of plastic. You can just easily give it to people, and 20 households could share the same card if they wanted to.
There you go. Yeah.
And then it's basically a free membership for everybody. But they've stopped that. Now they're actually asking for your card and photo ID when you check out. And they said, "We don't feel it's right that non-members receive the same benefits and pricing as our members," which sounds pretty familiar to the Netflix crackdown. And I don't actually know. I mean, it's probably not related to Netflix's crackdown. Maybe it is. I don't know. But it is interesting because companies do tend to behave like this. They kind of let one company do something crazy that's risky, and everyone just sits back and watches. And then if it turns out that it's doing reasonably well, or at least it looks like it's doing okay, then other companies kind of step in and go, actually, wait, they are making more money doing that? Yeah, we should do that. And then they kind of jump on board and let that company take the all of the heat. So yeah,
it's like the classic example is like the monthly subscription model.
Yeah,
any sort of membership model. It just used to not really exist that much. Like it'd exist here and there, but not that much. And then companies saw how successful it was. And then everything now, literally every business out there is trying to figure out how can we do some sort of subscription model.
Yeah. Because
reality is people forget about it, don't use the service, and then they end up paying for it for about 5 years before they cancel it.
Yep, pretty much. Yep. Yeah, we even just saw it with Meta. I mean, Meta sat back and let Twitter do paid for verification, and then a couple months later they launched their own paid for verification. Yeah, it's certainly a habit of companies to do that. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. They're starting to crack down. Try and reel in their customers a bit.
Watch out, you Costco members out there.
Exactly.
You're going to be nervous when you walk up with your membership card these days, aren't you? Shake your head. Sorry, so why are you sweating?
Get him.
Dear. Is that all we had for that one?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, nice. Let's talk about the top 10 highest paid CEOs in the US in 2022.
Yes,
Why
here we
not?
go. What's his name? Sundar Pichai. He's got to be on there.
Sundar Pichai. He is on there. It says on Tuesday, Wall Street Journal published its list of the highest paid CEOs of 2022, which was based on data from C-Suite data analytics firm that tracks the compensation of executives at nearly 4,000 publicly traded US companies. Their ranking includes the executive salaries, bonuses, perks, and stock options, among other factors. It's worth noting CEOs often receive restricted stock or options as a part of their compensation, the value of which can fluctuate. For example, Sundar Pichai doesn't get his big stock award package every year, but it just so happened in 2022 that he did get it. The median pay for S&P 500 leaders dropped to $14.5 million last year. Oh no. Down from $14.7 million in 2021.
Oh my goodness.
Dear.
They're suffering.
They are suffering. I really feel for them.
Yep.
Comparably, in 2022, the average US worker earned about $56,000, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
That's pretty good.
14.5 million, 56,000, 14.5 million. They're basically the same number.
Yeah. Is there really any difference there?
No, it's not really that much different. All right, let's get into this list. Yes, we are being sarcastic. That is ridiculous. But
this is exciting. I actually haven't looked at this list, so I actually don't know. I know a couple that will be on there just because I've looked at their specific compensation.
Who's going to be on there?
Okay. So Alphabet CEO Sundar.
Sundar Pichai. Yep.
Tim Cook has to be on there. Apple.
He's on there. Yep.
I don't know of some others. Is Jamie Dimon on there?
No, you're not going to get any of the others.
No, really?
I was very surprised.
Okay.
I was very surprised.
All right.
I'll take you through it. But then again, this is obviously skewed by like stock options and stuff that might happen in 2022. So, the highest paid CEO in the US in 2022 was Steven Schwartzman at Blackstone.
Oh, Blackstone. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
So they have $881 billion in assets under management.
Yep.
They are a global private equity firm. Net income of $1.7 billion, although that doesn't really. I've got the net income, by the way, of all these. The 2022 net income of all these companies.
Oh, great.
So we can compare.
We can see how much they're sucking.
What you get for the money. I guess it's not as relevant now for Blackstone, but Steven Schwartzman, $253 million. $253 million.
Not a bad year.
He is the highest paid CEO in the US. I won't dwell on these too much. Sundar Pichai at Alphabet, $226 million.
Yep.
Alphabet had net income of $60 billion. So you get $60 billion, you're paying $226. Okay.
Yeah.
Next one was Stephen Scher at Hertz.
Okay. Hertz. Hang on a second. Hang on. Is Hertz still functioning? I thought.
I don't know. It's $182 million. And they generated net income of $2 billion in 2022.
Hertz? What? That's
apparently.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. You looking it up?
I'm just
fact check me.
Keep going.
I mean,
no. I'm not fact checking you. I'm just curious.
Please do.
Because Hertz was on the brink of bankruptcy, so it's just hilarious that the CEO is
pocketing $182 million.
I'm guessing it's a new CEO who's just come in after the
Must be
change, but
I think it was actually. Yeah, I think it was. Barry McCarthy, Peloton, $168 million.
Okay.
Peloton generated negative $2.8 billion in net income in 2022.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
Michael Rapino for Live Nation, $139 million. Live Nation generated $149 million in net income.
Great.
Safra Katz, is that how you say her? Safra Katz, $138 million. Wowee.
Jesus. I wonder when that's gonna happen. Who's gonna hit $1 billion?
Yeah.
Who's gonna hit $1 billion first?
Annual compensation.
Yeah.
We're a quarter of the way there. Oracle CEO. So Oracle generated $8.5 billion in 2022. Then we have Douglas Ingram from Sarepta Therapeutics, $125 million. Sarepta Therapeutics generated negative $703 million in net income in 2022.
Interesting.
Bill Reddy, or Reedy. I guess it's probably Reedy. Bill Reedy at Pinterest, 123 million. Pinterest generated negative 96 million in net income.
Is it a trend
here? Kiwi Kamara of CS Disco, 110 million. CS Disco generated negative 70 million in net income. And then lastly, we have Tim Cook, 99 million. And Apple generated 99.8 billion.
Yeah, there's two types of companies in this list. There's companies that are killing it, and the CEO is making a killing because this company is killing it. And then there's companies that are doing terribly, and they're probably doing terribly in part because the CEO is sucking money out of the company. Like, it's kind of crazy that some of these companies are losing hundreds of millions or near $100 million a year, and then they're paying their executives $100 million.
Yeah.
That's just one executive. Like, the rest are probably making in the tens of millions. So, you're talking about executive comp that could, if you half executive comp, the company would be profitable. Like, that's really the like, that's really the situation, is if they just cut executive comp, if you made 20 million instead of 40 million as a CFO, and so on and so forth, then they'd be profitable. Like, it's just mind blowing.
It is mind blowing, isn't it? Yep. This is why we say, when we talk about management, check the compensation.
Yeah.
Check the compensation.
They might not actually be there for you.
No,
they might be there for them.
Yeah. Make sure the CEO and the long-term shareholders are on the same trajectory. They're on the same path. Their interests are aligned. That's crazy, isn't it? Pretty bonkers.
Insane.
Yeah, that's all I had for that one. Just a funny little exercise.
Crazy. Yeah.
I might submit a couple of job applications though to a couple of these companies. You never know.
Yeah.
Try my luck.
Yeah. Give it a go.
May as well. All right, Hamish. Should we do some Q&A?
Yes, let's do some Q&A.
Sure.
Of course, as always, if you have any questions, we're always taking more questions. So if you're on Spotify, it's super easy. Just scroll up on the or scroll down and ask your questions organically in Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, leave them as a comment. And then, everyone else, of course, you can also leave them as a comment on the latest episode of the YouTube version of the podcast. And we'll see if we can get through a couple here. Let's see. Oh, this is a follow-up from... I don't know if you have any deep thoughts on this, but this is a follow-up from the Berkshire question that we had last week. We were talking about kind of succession of Berkshire. And there was a follow-up that said, how do you guys actually feel about the successes of Berkshire? I don't know if you have any...
I feel good. I mean, I don't really know. I don't know them well. I haven't studied Berkshire as a business. I'm technically a Berkshire shareholder, but I have one B share to get me into that meeting. But no, I've not actually done my due diligence, but it seems like from everything that I've heard from listening to the Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meetings, from being there, for everything that Warren and Charlie say, sounds like Greg Abel is just a beast at managing the various businesses that they've got. Ajit Jain, they just talk up Ajit so much in terms of insurance. So I think that it sounds as though in insurance, Ajit basically does it all anyway. That's the thing. It sounds as though these guys already do everything anyway.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of Warren is the top dog and kind of overlooks everything.
Yeah.
Make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
But then you've got Ted and Todd in the managing the securities portfolio. It sounds as though those two are like, was it you or was it Tom telling me that if you actually have a look at Ted and Todd's like history, they are like phenomenal.
Yeah. It was Tom, but yeah, he's told me the same story. One of them had put a small amount of money in one of the US retirement funds, and it turned into an enormous sum of money over a couple of decades. So they have, it'll be interesting to see how, I wish we could kind of splice out their investments in Berkshire, because they are managing some money at Berkshire now. So it'd be interesting to splice that out and see how that performance is separate to the rest of the portfolio. But it sounds like the company's in capable hands. Although, the problem that Berkshire will always have is that they're investing so much capital now that you can be an incredible investor with $100,000 or $1 million or 10 million. But if you have to invest $100 billion or $200 billion, it's just a completely different landscape. And, that's going to be challenging for anyone. But even it just gets progressively more challenging the more money you have to manage. So I think that has nothing to do with the successes of Berkshire, but that's just a kind of a challenge that Berkshire's going to have going forward.
Yeah. Can I ask you this one at the top here, because it's been sitting on this list for a long time.
Yeah.
If you take a company's depreciation over 10 to 20 years and compare it to its maintenance capex over 10 to 20 years, should they be similar?
Yeah, I think it depends on the assets. For some company, I've seen both. I've seen for some companies that their depreciation is relatively similar to the actual cash that they're spending to kind of maintain their assets. So the depreciation being the accounting reduction and the maintenance capex being the actual cash spent. For some companies, it's quite similar. For other companies, it can be completely different, especially over shorter periods of time. Longer, a lot of it will kind of trend in the same direction, but it really depends on the types of assets, because we have to remember that depreciation is simply an accounting. It's like accounting paperwork. There's, the depreciation schedule, the way that things are depreciated, often have nothing to do with how an asset actually breaks down. It might just be a 10-year depreciation cycle for a particular piece of machinery or whatever it is, a laptop or a camera, and that has nothing to do with the actual useful life of the camera. So the replacement, you could have a camera, you depreciate it on your tax over 5 years, but then you use that camera for another 5 years. So your maintenance capex is only coming in every 10 years, whereas the depreciation is coming in every 5 years. So they can be different over time, but it does depend on the assets.
Right.
So you've just got to look at it by case. But in any circumstance, if you can get to the maintenance capex figure, then that's always going to be a better reflection than the accounting calculation. It's always better to look at the actual cash in and outflows of the business.
Flowing out. That makes sense. Right. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. And with that said, we are out of here, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in, as always. Very big thank you to Seeking Alpha for sponsoring the episode. Just a reminder, if you have any Q&A questions you'd like us to answer, make sure you go and leave us a comment on the most recent episode of the podcast over on YouTube, or you can drop a question in the question box on Spotify. But with that said, guys, thanks very much for tuning in. Hope you had a good time listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.